G'day folks, it's Laura here, and today I'm going to do a flip cup pour. Now I want this one to be predominantly these yellow gold kind of colors, but I do want some, very subtle kind of traces of the amethyst and the brilliant magenta in here. So I'm going to use a very small amount of paint here with these two colors, and predominantly these yellows, which include the Jaune Brilliant, Turner's Yellow, Naples Yellow Hue, Pale Gold and Titanium White. I'm going to be using my standard pouring medium here, but this particular batch is just a little bit thicker than normal. It's got a little bit more neutral base, and so I might actually add some water to all of these mixes once I've mixed them all up, just to make it a little bit less viscous. So as I mentioned before, I'm using very little of this amethyst and the brilliant magenta paint, and so I do actually have a very small amount of pouring medium in here. I'm essentially just looking for a really subtle trace of these more, I guess, vibrant, bright colors. So I just added a little bit of water to each of these, and I'll just mix them up again well. So now it's time to layer my cup, and I'm going to be using my standard cell activator here, and I'll link to a video on how to make this if you're interested. I'm going to start with a generous layer on the bottom of the cup. And then I have one iridescent color in this combination, so I'm going to start with a little bit of the pale gold, and then possibly a couple of little traces of these more pigmented colors before getting into all of these other colors. So for this particular flip cup, I'm actually using a canvas that's already been used. So this is a discarded canvas, and I'm going to just flip straight on this one. I'll just get the rest that's in the cup out. So I have a few bubbles coming to the surface here, which I'm just going to use my heat gun on. So far I'm absolutely loving these really subtle colour combinations. For this one, it doesn't look like we've got a lot of cell activity, but then again the paint was a bit thicker than I usually have, and so it might take longer for cells to develop. We'll find out soon. But essentially I'm going to try and stretch this down a little bit to center the paint and then spin it out. Okay, let's spin. So far this one's looking very subtle in its colour combinations. I do need to try and cover this corner and that top corner as well. So I'm just going to stretch the paint in that direction. So just going to cover these corners that haven't quite got paint on them. So I'm not getting a huge amount of cell activity or lacing happening in this painting. It could be because I had far less cell activator in the mix because I was getting a little bit short in my squeeze bottle. There are some kind of bubble-like things coming up. I don't know whether they're just bubbles or whether they might actually develop a little bit more into cells. I'll have another go with the heat gun just to pop any residual bubbles and then let it sit for a while and see if anything further develops. Whether or not anything does, it doesn't matter. I am absolutely loving the subtle layering effects of this painting. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I think there's a lot that I'll be able to do with this in terms of using it as a background for wildlife art. And so I think just the next step is just removing the excess paint from underneath. And then just waiting to see if anything further comes up in terms of cells as it dries. But to be honest, I'm really happy with this just the way it is. I really like these very subtle, small amounts of the more pigmented colours against this beautiful orange-yellow background. So overall, really happy with this one, even though it hasn't got much in the way of cells or lacing.